I set out to make a simple rectangular butter dish on the wheel. Cause why make things easy when you can make them unnecessarily complicated? This was a birthday gift for my father-in-law who loves room temp butter on toast. Since I wasn't sure what brand he buys, I measured the longest and widest butter stick I have, did some math, and threw a wide, shallow porcelain dish. Round, obviously. The plan? Cut it, squish it, rectangle. After separated from the bed, I carved out 2 moon-shaped silvers from the sides, then used wood planks to press the walls in. It worked surprisingly well. I compressed the seam from the inside and left the base alone, still too soft to touch it. Then came the lid. Same method, but with taller walls. I carved out 2 more silvers from the other side, pressed those in too. That's where things got a little out of hand. The rim flared, curled, and absolutely refused to play along. Why? Because a curved wall has more length than the straight line you're forcing it into, and the taller the wall, the more obvious it gets. So I guess this shape-altering technique works better on shallow forms. Still, I didn't want to start over, so I turned the rim into a ruffled edge. Let's just call it intentional design. When the piece reached leather hard, I realized the bottom seam hadn't been sealed well. I'd been too distracted fixing the flare to compress the base properly, like I did with the shallow one. This time, I patched it with coils and really compressed it, hoping it wouldn't crack again while drying. I also trimmed down the edges to lighten the lid and soften the profile to match the ruffle. Next, a handle. Enter Oreo, the family dog, and this butter dish's soul. His sweet, social, and probably Nash's only dog friend. Obviously, he needed to be immortalized in clay. Never built a dog before, or anything. It took 3 hours of trial and error, figuring out those half-bent legs that are always ready to play, a young dog's beautifully curved belly, and a slightly tilted head whenever he's listening intently. And somehow, I think it actually looked like him. I scored and slipped both parts, then reinforced the joint with coils. Oreo may be tiny, but the lid is heavy. Those piles needed to be strong enough to hold their weight. By then, I was already behind schedule, so I rushed the drying, and that's one of the best ways to get a crack right on the bottom of the dish. At that point, it was already bits fired, and I crossed my fingers that the glaze might seal it. I dipped the base in 2 passes, small bucket problem, and soothed overlap once dry. For the lid, I brush glazed Oreo in black and white using photos for reference. First time brushing glaze, so naturally, I was winging it. The kiln returned. A bigger crack, a lid that no longer fit, and black glaze that fired brown. Lovely. The brown glaze, not ideal, but kinda charming. Definitely not worth the Sharpie makeover. The lid not fitting, that's on me. I should have flared the base rim just a bit more outward to account for the thickness of glaze. And while I didn't have 2 weeks to remake the whole thing, I did have 5 hours to slowly grind the ruffled edge until the lid fit. As for the crack, enter modern DIY Kintsugi, epoxy and mica powder. I meant to buy clear epoxy. Somehow I got the grey instead. Still fine, I just mixed in a little more mica. I taped off the back to hold the mixture in place and filled the crack as much as I could. The plan was to scrape off the excess once it firmed up for a nice flat surface. Except I misread the instructions and let it cure completely. Now I had a hardened blob. I dremeled it down, but no way I could make it perfectly smooth. So I taped off a clean rectangle, added a fresh layer of epoxy, and dusted it with mica. Then I flipped the dish, filled in the tiny gap from the other side, and gave it one more dusting for extra shimmer. Learning from my mistake, this time peeling the tape before it sets for those clean, sharp lines. Once it cured, I brushed off the excess powder. It's not traditional Kintsugi. It doesn't even show off the delicate crack lines, but it sparkles and it's holding together. Technically, epoxy and some mica powder are food safe when they're cured and maintained properly, but the surface isn't as sealed or smooth as glaze, so I told my in-laws to just maybe don't butter the glitter. Considering all the chaos, I'm honestly impressed with how it turned out. Far from perfect, but it's a handmade, heartfelt little gift. My father-in-law loved it, and I learned quite a lot in the process. So yes, you can certainly make a rectangular butter dish on a wheel. Easy? Nope. Worth it? I think so.